Cold fingers trying to work the guitar here in this shed. Looking forward to slightly warmer weather for that reason. Had an interesting conversation with a newly made friend who likes to dabble in guitars here in my area of the UK, and he was telling me that he finds less and less things to buy and fix up. His principal area or marketplace has been eBay, so I thought I'd do a discussion on that. So I've bought probably about 12, 15 guitars already since arriving here in the UK, and have fixed them up, have sold a few, have some still up for sale. And I'm developing an idea, precisely what he was talking about. This here is a C Giant model, just a basic dreadnought. It is a spruce ply top, some sort of sandalwood board. And the issue with this guitar is the saddle is as low as it will go, and this action is still slightly too high. It really needs a neck reset. But of course, a guitar that costs 60, 70, 80 quid isn't going to get a neck reset. So this is the problem that you run into when you're speculating, buying low, fixing up, and trying to sell for more, what a lot of us call flipping guitars. And I, after doing this for a while, have to agree with him that the low end of the market, the fixer-uppers, are kind of drying up, or the price that sellers want is too high relative to the condition of the guitar. When you buy it, it may not have as much resale value as you hoped for in buying it. This is a case in point here, I freely admit. I didn't spend much more than 40, 50 pounds for it, but really I can't sell it for more than 60, 70, 80 at a push, with a gig bag maybe, but probably isn't worth the time. So this is the kind of thing that you run into. I would say on eBay UK, if you want to buy used guitars, fix them up, keep some, move some on kind of thing, you're better off going up into the mid-range market or the higher end market. The problem with the higher end market is that that's the stuff everybody wants. The vintage, the deluxe Takaminis, Alvarez's, and also the high-end brand name stuff like Martins and Taylors. Everybody wants that, so you have to pay a premium for it. It's hard to buy low and sell high when you get up into that echelon. It's possible, and if you have some lutherie skills, it's even more likely that you can do it, because you can buy, you know, those kinds of guitars with issues and fix them. However, everybody has their own limits in the work they can do. I would class varying states of guitar repair as your hobbyist who can change strings, lower saddles, you know, do really basic setup without that many tools, or getting into woodworking too much. Then you have your sort of guitar tech, guitar repair guys who aren't quite luthiers. You know, they don't get into restoration lutherie or making. They're just good at fixing up guitars. They probably know a little bit of woodworking, and also can deal with things like frets. So that's your second tier. Your third tier are your sort of trained luthier types, who can do, you know, extensive restorations, like some of the luthiers you see on eBay channels. And then you've got your fourth tier, the people that can do it all and even make instruments from scratch, good instruments from scratch. So that's quite a lot of people in the market, and quite a lot of tiers of guitars that are being looked for in that respect. You have people also that stay within their limitations. In other words, if they're tier 2, you know, just a sort of guitar tech type person, they only buy guitars that need that kind of work. But you also get people that buy above their station. They fancy themselves as restoring a Martin. They buy it. It's way above their skill level. And the guitar ends up sitting in their attic or garage until they resell it a year or two later when they clear out. I get a lot of guitars that way. I get a lot of guitars that people bought to fix up and never got around to. It's almost a separate market unto itself. But buying like these 30-40 pound guitars, I'm finding that, and this was getting to be the case in the US as well, on eBay, I'm finding that a lot of times they're really not worth the time to put in, and the condition and the issues with the guitars are far worse than the sellers either know about because of their ignorance about guitar mechanics, or you know, they're not listing all the defects and problems in their eBay listings. You know, for instance, this guitar right here, you know, needs a neck reset. It's right on the border of what's acceptable, so I could sell it cheap as is. I might even get another millimeter off that saddle, probably what I will do. But it's not worth putting in the time. You certainly won't recoup the money. You'll lose money, and you'll be working for free, if not for a loss. Stuff like this, the person obviously didn't know about when they sold it. They're just selling used gear. You know, a lot of times the charity sites in the UK come across guitars, violins, basses. They don't know what they've got. They don't know conditions. They just take pictures and tell you what it is, if even that. And then you get a guitar that's far worse than you thought you were going to get. And that's the case a lot at the low end. I'm finding a lot of guitars need bridge reglues. Often the action is not immediately repairable. It has warpage or needs a neck reset, and other issues that are beyond the normative guitar setup paradigms. You know, it's probably more sensible to move up a notch and get into your $100 to $200 to $300 guitars and work on those. Even there you might run into issues that the seller is not reporting or doesn't know about, but I would say it's probably less likely. Those guitars are probably going to have sellers who are a little bit more knowledgeable, not always, but a little bit more knowledgeable, and it will be more worth your time to remedy those types of guitars. I had almost completely stopped buying guitars on eBay before leaving the US. I think the last few months, or maybe even the last year in the US, I hardly bought any guitars on eBay, just because they were always worse than represented on the listings. And a lot of times I took a loss or wasted my time working on something that wasn't really worth it. I will still do that, and I said that on a recent video. I'm the type of person that will take on projects that other guys would turn down, just because I'm not, you know, I don't draw all my income from this work, so I don't need to make a certain amount of money per hour to sustain myself. I can, you know, sort of repair a guitar like this and sell it 10 over what I paid for it, and get away with it a little bit, just because of, you know, I have various ways of making income. But for a lot of people, this just wouldn't be worth it. It's not viable, you know, to get something like this in order to resell it. It's just not going to be worth your time. You're going to take a loss. You're not going to be able to repair it properly. And even if you do sort of do a cobbled repair, you'll find out that you're not going to really be able to sell it for any more than what you paid for it. I know this is a long ramble, but it's an interesting issue, isn't it? I'd almost stopped completely buying on eBay just because of all the problems and the misrepresentation, constantly returning or asking people for partial refunds for not representing their items properly. I'm finding exactly the same problems here in the UK. And so therefore I found other ways to purchase guitars, other markets, other than eBay, other than used even, you know, scratches and dents and blems and seconds and stuff like that, which I'm exploring here as well. It's just a little bit more worth your time, because you're not likely to get a guitar that's in as bad a condition as some of these used guitars on eBay. Anyway, it'd be interesting to hear what your experiences are, particularly those in the UK, but those in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, anywhere else as well. You know, a lot of us that do this sort of thing, we've been speculating with eBay purchases now for 20 plus years. For me, it's been since their inception, really. And things change, markets change, trends change. You know, you kind of change your mind about how worth certain things are. You know, is it worth buying used? Is it worth buying distressed items, whether guitars or other things? And maybe you come to different conclusions over time, or maybe things just fluctuate based on, you know, market value and inflation and things like that. But anyway, I had a really nice discussion with this guy, and he told me he wasn't going to buy any more fixer-uppers in the 50 to 100 pound range. He was going to just concentrate on slightly higher quality instruments, because he'd run into a lot of these problems and he was just tired of it, tired of getting stuff in the mail that was not even half as good as promised. You know, and working on guitars that aren't worth working on for the price that you pay. If you get them free, almost every guitar is worth working on. But if you pay 60 quid for this and you put 3, 4, 5 hours and parts into it, and you're only selling it for 70, 75 quid, it's not worth it. You made £15 for all that effort and parts. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And we compared notes and came to a lot of the same conclusions about the used market, principally on eBay UK. Still can get bargains, still can find great deals, still can find great margin, but it's just becoming less and less prevalent. The times where you get stuck with something and take a loss on something are becoming more the norm, and the great bargain that you find is becoming less of the norm. That's just the situation at the moment. Interested to see what you say or think. I know a lot of you who follow this channel are dabblers, speculators, fixer-uppers, flippers. Always enjoy your comments. So get back to me and let me know. All right, folks. See you on the next one.